Hi, art teacher here with you again. We're going back a little bit into two-point perspective, and we're going to tie that in with some other things we've drawn. But remember, do your likes, subscriptions, and favorites, especially those favorites and stuff if you like the video, and leave a comment below if I'm unclear about anything. Now, let's jump right in here to two-point perspective and the toy bird idea. Let me orient you as to what we're doing. Now, you'll recall I've used this sort of bird made up out of shapes in a couple of my videos. I think it's a kind of cool looking thing and gives you an idea to play around with shapes in kind of an expressive way, but it's very flat, right? It's extremely flat. It's not 3D at all. But then I introduced an idea of taking that flat bird, and remember I did a video like this. I added some dimension to it, and that went, this is stuff that's just review. So I'm going through it very quickly. I have a whole video on doing just this. Okay, you can go back and look at that if you're not really getting what I'm showing you here. But I'm going to quickly just go through by way of review so that everything makes sense. I'm going to go through this video, this drawing here. But I still need to make it good enough that it looks good. And remember, I did a whole video on this. You can go back and look at that. And the idea is, just by adding these angles, and all the angles should be exactly the same. Though they're not here, I did it quickly. All these angles should be pretty much exactly the same, and it gives it a 3D look. Well, I mentioned in that video that I will show you how to do this bird using two-point perspective. Now, if you haven't seen my two-point perspective videos, go back and look at those. Here's an example of doing the bird in two-point perspective. I added some decorative elements around it, though. And here's another example of a drawing where I'm doing the bird in two-point perspective. Okay, and that gives you an idea of where we're going with this. So, let's jump right into, now that we're oriented and know what we're doing, let's jump right into the toy bird in two-point perspective. We're going to go, in this case, take your paper. You're going to need a paper, a pencil, and a ruler. So, for what I'm using, I have a big ruler. You're going to need a regular one. So start with your paper like this and put your vanishing points kind of high up. If you're not sure of what I mean by vanishing points, you're really going to have to go back and look at my two-point perspective series. And I have a whole playlist of 10 videos that you can look at. But I'm assuming some people have tried that. Anyway, put your vanishing points up high. So that's what I have here, 2 vanishing points. Now, the center line, as you see in this drawing, I'm going to work off of this block down here being the main thing I'm working with. That big body block of the bird. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to do this line right here as the center line that I'll start with. So, down below, pretty far below the level of the vanishing points, it's not that long, I'm going to go ahead and make a line like that. And on this paper, I don't want to go too low, but I want to be something like that. It's pretty far below the level of the vanishing points, but it's not at the bottom. Something like that. Then connect the top and bottom of that line back to the vanishing points. And I try to save vanishing points in an kind of with that tone, because I think it kind of sticks in the minds of kids better, you know? I always try to do some little funny thing like that, because novelty tends to make things stay in your mind a little bit longer and encodes it in memory better. So that's what we're doing. Let's go ahead and take the top and bottom here back to the vanishing points. Boom. Boom. And then 2 lines on the other side. 1 and the other one, 2. Now, I'm going to make this side longer. That's going to be the long side of the body. So I'll do the end line way out here. If you're not sure what I mean by end line and stuff like that, you definitely have to go back and look at my other videos on perspective drawing. So I have my end lines there, and because this is a box, I'm going to line up this ruler to that vanishing point, and that line needs to be focused back toward there. That's going to be the end of that box, the end of the top of the box. Now the top of the box alongside of the end of the top of the box, from this back to this vanishing point, top of that line to the vanishing point, needs to focus back toward this vanishing point, as you can see here. Now, that gives me the body of the bird. Now I'm going to try to come up with the neck and those wings. And this is kind of a skinny box, but that's okay, I can work with it. What I'm going to do is want some distance between this line and the neck of the bird. So I'm going to make 2 little dots, 1, 2. These 2 dots are going to be the 2 sides of the neck of the bird. So let's go ahead, I can even use those for the wings too. I'm going to make those 2 dots focus back to this vanishing point. This is kind of I would call this a bit more of an advanced perspective drawing, okay? So what I did is I went for the flat bird, made out of shapes, which was kind of easy for the younger kids. Then I did a bird that's 3D, but not using perspective. That's medium-aged kids, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th, even 6th grade. This would be more 7th in high school, 7th through high school. Okay? So this is a little more challenging than some of the other bird ones. Anyway, I have these 2 lines here. Now I've established the 2 sides of the neck and 2 sides of the bottom of the wings. So for that neck, I'm going to make 2 dots along this line for the front and back of the neck. So now I'll know where the base of that neck is. Now, this square right there is very important because that's going to be the base of the neck. Now I want verticals coming up off of all those 3 corners there. So let's go ahead and bring the verticals up. You'll see what I mean by that. 1, 2, 3. And I'm making them rather random lengths because I know I'm going to have to do some erasing in a moment. So that's the neck of the bird. Now let's do the top of his head. This being the center line, I'll go ahead and make a dot here and bring it back this vanishing point on both sides. Yeah, I made that really right along the horizon line, so you're not going to see a huge amount of dimension on that. That's all right. Get rid of all those extra lines. And then I'll do the back of the top side of the bird. So if you haven't seen my other perspective drawing videos, you see that little sliver of white there is real important. That shows you the top of the head. But if you haven't seen those videos, I'd say go back and look at them. Now let's do some of the wings here. I'll go ahead and make a line there and a line there, a dot there and a dot there. And those 2 dots are going to be the front and back of that wing. So that'll help me to establish the base of where that wing is. 1, 2. So I've done 2 lines there. Now from here I'm going to go straight up. And that goes above the horizon line. So that's a long wing type line there. And now I'm going to go from the top of that down to here to get the diagonal, because I make those wings on this toy bird. I like to make the wings have one side be diagonal. Then I need to go straight up from the other corner of that. Then this needs to focus back to that vanishing point. So far every line has either gone to a vanishing point or has been vertical. You see what I'm saying? The vanishing point lines are vertical lines. I can get rid of some of these extra lines can start to see, you know, that does look like a good, you know, a good triangle in perspective there. So there I have the head, and I can get rid of some of the extra guidelines inside of that. And I have the wing. Now I need to do the other wing, same thing. I make a dot there and a dot here. That's going to establish the front and back of that. And I can just, I don't need to draw the whole line every time. I don't need to draw the whole line as long as this ruler's on the vanishing point. All I need is the part of the line I need. So there we go. I got those two done. Now I need to go straight up from those three intersections as I did before. Actually, let me make them the same height. So this will only go to here. See what I did? I went from the top of this one back to the vanishing point. That shows me the height of this wing. So as I do this, I'm realizing this is probably this is a pretty complex perspective drawing, you know. So, this top of this wing comes back here. Now from here. Now, so what I did there is bring this top part back toward that vanishing point to achieve this line. I made my vertical here up to that line. And now I have those two wings. So I have those two wings in that bird's head. Now I want to think about maybe the beak of that bird. I'll put a little eyeball down here. And I'll make the beak kind of higher. That's just an expressive thing I like to do. So the middle of the beak will be right here. So I want to make the middle of that beak coming out. Make it rather long. So that's going to be the middle of that beak. And then this will come back toward there. Then these two lines here are not going to be vertical because they're the top and bottom of the beak. So there's the top and bottom of that funny beak. Now this is going to go back to here to get the line where the beak connects to the head. So this is the line where the beak connects to the head, right there. And I need to get from here to here, so I'm going to repeat that angle. Let me get rid of some of the extra lines here. So I'm going to take this angle of the beak and repeat it that way. So there, that will get me at the beak. There's the beak drawn in two-point perspective. Okay, so there's the beak, the neck, the two wings, and now I want to just quickly do those feet. I could, I'm going to make them equal to these two. So this will come straight down. Okay, those are just lines to help me. And there we go. And then from here and here, we'll go back to that vanishing point. Those are the two legs. So what I'm going to say is you could get involved in making those little feathers that come off of here on the back, the little feet on here. There's other things you can do. As I said in my video I call Getting Creative with Two-Point Perspective. It's a good video. You should go back and look at it. I'm surprised that one didn't get more views. It's like really good. Anyway, this is along those lines of the Getting Creative with Two-Point Perspective. Once you know the system and understand that lines are either vertical or they go back to the vanishing point, except in very special cases like that beak, you're going to really be able to get creative, and whatever you see, you can draw in two-point perspective. Again, starting with a little guy like this and thinking, how can I turn that into a 2-point perspective drawing? Well, that's a pretty good little challenge for anybody from 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or even up into senior in high school. Even maybe, you know, freshman in college just starting to do a drawing class or whatever. That's an interesting challenge to say, take a flat little drawing like this made out of shapes and you apply 2-point perspective to it and make it be a 3D looking item that looks like it's in space that relates to vanishing points. Okay, this is an advanced lesson. I'd say this is my most advanced lesson yet. So this would be good for the older kids. Anyway, hey, you take care now and have a good one. Bye.